everybody. My name's Tom Stoukas, coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario on April 11th, 2025. We're just about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks away from the Canadian election on April 28th. And very interesting where we are so far in the election. If you would have asked me a year ago, or anybody a year ago, or told anybody a year ago, said the Liberals would be beating the Conservatives and the NDP would be on the verge of extinction, people would, and even the Bloc is doing poorly. A year ago, none of this was, it was totally opposite. Even Conservatives were looking for a super majority. The Bloc was looking to make big gains. NDP was hoping to get disaffected Liberals, especially if Trudeau was still the leader. Well, all that's changed with Trudeau. The exit of Trudeau, nobody seemed to have planned for the exit of Trudeau except for the Liberals themselves. Everybody else kind of just assumed Trudeau would be sticking around, like kind of asleep at the switch. And here we are. According to the daily polls I saw today. And like I said, at the end of the day, what matters is how many voters turn out and who gets the most votes. The polls are interesting, but they're not absolute. Still, we look at them. They're like a guilty pleasure, I guess. But that's their bit. The Conservatives, some Conservatives are whining a little bit too loud about the polls, saying, don't believe the polls and this and that. But they believed it when they were up 25. Huge, they were up. They liked the polls then. They go up and down. That's life. So take the polls with a grain of salt and the poly market and all that, but it's still interesting to look at. I don't like the gambling sites, but still interesting to keep abreast of all that. And it's showing like the Liberals have played things to a fiddle. Like, I can't stand the Liberals. I know they're a globalist control party, WEF. But since getting rid of Trudeau, they've played things to a T. You got to give them a little bit of credit there. And everybody else has just been caught flat-footed while they're making all the moves. And I mentioned in a post today, in Sarnia, where I live here, gas is cheap, man. It's going down. And what that does is people get a good mood and they feel like they have more money in their pocket. They're not happy, like they're not dancing in the street, but they're not grumbling, let's just say, about the price of gas. So right before an election, that's a pretty big deal. Like, you don't want to motivate people to come vote against you. So they played that to a T. They played everything to a T, where they're playing us like a fiddle. The news is helping them. And instead of disrupting that, the Conservatives have fallen into their trap, or they're throwing the match. Like, maybe they're in cahoots, who knows? Maybe it's been a predetermined outcome. And the Conservatives are just there for a show, do a few rounds with the champ. Sometimes it feels that way. So, yeah, like the Conservatives, instead of disrupting that game plan of the Liberals, they've fallen into all their traps. And they've acted, and not necessarily fallen into their traps, they've just acted like a bunch of cowards. They've alienated their base they've been wishy-washy on, like, the main issue, like, which is immigration. Like, they barely mention it, where if they were going to go knock on doors, pretty sure a lot of people were mentioning that issue, but it barely touches their lips. So they haven't really differentiated themselves from the Liberals, and the Liberals have executed their plan much better, and their media strategy much better. They're running a very tight ship. I don't. I think getting rid of Trudeau has re-energized them in unknown ways, And the Conservatives are just flat-footed, um, like they, for some reason, put all their eggs on the Trudeau basket. And I believe the quote of today was malpractice or campaign malpractice. It's what Corey Tanecki called it. That's Doug Ford's brain. Doug Ford don't have a brain, so Corey Tanecki does the work for that. And he called it the way that the Conservatives had run the campaign as campaign malpractice. And so it's like people are piling on the Conservatives, the media, the people within the Conservative Party. And it's funny because instead of like, it's a lot of the Conservative supporters are getting all pretty, what's the word, like hysterical. Like they can't take no criticism. Like it's like, oh, you want if you criticize the Conservative government party strategy, they accuse you of being a liberal or you support Mark Carney or what else do they call you? I think that's what they call you, is a liberal or a paid whatever. But that sounds really communist or something, or dictatorial, where you can't criticize the party that you could, like, let's say you could support the party, but you can still criticize certain parts of it if you don't like what they're doing. What they're basically saying, the Conservative supporters, look, I've been attacked all day. I don't care. They could say whatever. They're entitled to their opinion, but been pilloried all day about, oh, you're hurting the party and this and that, and by criticizing some of the campaign. And instead, like, wow, that's weak. It's weak. And you're not going to win hockey games or elections bitching about the ref all the time. Maybe once in a while you bitch about the ref, but not all the time. So there's still 2 weeks left, though. Like, still over 2 weeks left, so there's still time to turn the ship, right the ship. So that's what we'll be watching. That's the question: is will they right the ship? Will they go from campaign malpractice to campaign awesomeness? It'd be, I don't know. These things usually, if they don't happen by now, it's hard to spark it up. But I don't see it happening to me. But we're gonna go through the posts and we will discuss why it ain't happening. I have theories. I have a few theories. But the ultimate thing, the reason I think is Pierre, he don't stand for nothing. Okay? Immigration, he's totally on board with that. The whole plan to populate the country with millions more people. He won't say it loudly, but he's on board with it. He's got a lot of like ethnic pandering debts to pay. Like he's probably made promises, and it's going to be just business as usual. And so he's doing exactly what O'Toole did the last election. Is exactly tried to be, appeal to the liberal base, or instead of being a bold leader that people are looking for. And he had the opportunity. It takes a little courage. People might call you bad names, and he's just wishy-washy on all the serious issues. And come election, like at least Kearney and them, they hold their base and they know what they want. They believe it, even though I think it's horrible and totally destroying Canada. They believe it, and at least we got this guy reading polls and just wishy-washy. Don't win elections. That's all I'm saying. And look at Trump. He had all sorts of problems with the media, but he figured a way around it. He didn't sit there and bitch about the media all day. He did his thing. He showed them how it's done. Like he went on all those podcasts. He went basically social media podcasts. He basically made them irrelevant. And Pierre here he is worrying, kicking people out who win a Canadian MAGA hat because he's worried about what they'll write in the Toronto Star about him. Who cares what they write? That's what I would say. But that's who's running for Prime Minister, is someone who cares what the Toronto Star writes. I know Trump couldn't give a shit what the New York Times writes about him. That's not Pierre. So, and I think that really sums up why he's losing. Is he's like terrified of being associated with Trump, but he still acts like Trump. So I mean, if you're gonna act like Trump, if you're gonna act like Trump, at least don't. I don't know. It's weird. He's just acting like Trump, but he's not acting like he's not doing it. He's acting like the bad part. Who knows? I don't know what he's. Wishy-washy. Halfway Trump, halfway the other way. Don't work. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Yeah, it should be interesting next 2 weeks. We still got the debate next week, the French and the English. So I'm sure, I think a lot of people, I think unlike the US, there's still actually people here who are waiting to vote. And they're going to watch the debate and see what transpires. But yeah, it looks like so far the Pierre ain't lighting it up. But we're going to go to the posts. But I remember I watched him today live. And he was in like St. Catharines. And they were asking him, oh, what's it mean to be here in St. Catharines in this area? And he started saying, just the way he's talking, doesn't sound very authentic, When Mark Carney sounded more authentic, then you got problems. But he was saying, oh, people are crying in our shoulder, and they're saying how horrible their lives are. Okay? And I'm like, well, I don't think Canadians are that at that level yet. Okay, I think it's bad, but I think we're not crying in people's strangers' shoulders. But he's saying all this stuff, drugs, this, and that, and that. The one thing he didn't mention was immigration. I guarantee you, people at the doorstep when they're knocking on the door are saying, "Oh, I'm worried that I'm gonna be outnumbered by Indians on my neighborhood." I'm pretty sure people were telling him that, but he didn't mention that. Just like every campaign style, he won't mention it. He puts in the odd line about immigration, like responsible immigration, but he won't say the word moratorium, like never. Deport. I don't even think he says deport. No, he says put them in jail, but don't deport them. And then you put them in jail, they'll be out in 6 months. Jeez. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that answer, I was like, that's the dumbest answer. Like, that's such a softball question. You could just say, yeah, St. Catharines, this area is huge, it's tourism, this, that, whatever. Don't say people are crying in your shoulder and then not even mention the biggest issue. Like, he's gaslighting people. And people aren't stupid. And they might not vote for Carney, but they might just not vote, or they might vote for PPC, or probably not vote. As a lot of people are just so turned off by. They see that the Conservatives are acting just like the Liberals, but at least the Liberals know they're Liberals, and the Conservatives think they're Conservatives, but they're not. So who would you trust more? But yeah, I still remember Pierre during COVID. He didn't say, he was quiet as a mouse. He was all for that shit until he wasn't, until the trucks rolled in, and then he's like, "Oh, everybody's hiding from the trucks. I better get on. I better take advantage of it," which is fine. But you got to pay, like, people aren't going to forget about the silence, or at least apologize for the silence. Mm-hmm. Anyway, enough ranting. We'll go to the day that was on the X. All right. There's our first. Oh, shoot. Our first tweet of the day. I woke up to this. I didn't know. Um, Douglas Murray was on Joe Rogan with who? What's the guy's name? Dave Smith, I think. And I'm gonna watch it. It's like 2.5 hours, but it's pretty good debate. But this guy he's a paid Israeli shill. Oh my God, we gotta listen to him for.
I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
Will you have to go and touch the ground?
no, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you
Okay.
spend a career talking about something. Yes, I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
Okay.
It's a
But that's
not-
it's a normal thing to do. You're talking about you're talking about crossing points. And not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the region.
No.
Okay. Again, I
How
think this
can
is a
you-
non-argument. I
No,
don't
no,
understand.
no, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument if you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert, but still talking about it, about the provisions going into Gaza or not, if you've never seen any of this going on.
So you're not
That's
allowed to
amazing
speak
to
about
me.
things that you've read about. You can only speak about things that you've seen with your own eyes.
You can talk about what you want, as you're proving, but that is a different matter from spending an awfully long amount of time talking about an issue in a region you haven't even had the courtesy to visit,
Oh.
whilst developing all of these views about it. I mean, now I slightly get an idea of where you're coming from. You've read about this blockade, and so you imagine that that's what it is. I imagine you've read all the people who say that Gaza was a concentration camp, and you probably think that too. Am I right?
I mean, again, literally a concentration camp. It shares a lot of similarities, I would think.
Wow. Well, as I say, you can't time travel
Let's
back
go
to the
back to
Nazi
the block.
era.
Let's
but
go
you
back to
could
the
go.
blockade.
Anyway, this whole interview, this guy's he's a paid Israeli shill. He's made a lot of money since October 7th. He gets paid a lot of money to promote the Israeli cause. So, but he got a lot of reaction to this debate on the internet, how he's just coming off as just a total asshole. And he's really it's just a moment people are realizing how, much propaganda they're being subjected to over the years here. But hopefully people wake up a little. Anyway, that's what I woke up to. I'm going to have to watch the whole thing now. I don't know if I want to, though. This guy's voice bugs the hell out of me. He's going to lecture us on war, this guy. All right, next. This is Pierre's rally in Kitchener. He said over 5,000 hardworking Canadians in Kitchener came together for change. Conservatives restore Canada's promise that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. That hard work gets you great life and a nice home on a safe street under our proud flag. Like, come on, man. Why does he keep saying that anyone can come and do anything and anywhere from anywhere? And it's like, that's like totally like what Trudeau wants. Why are you saying it? I don't understand it. And I would be I'm pretty sure stuff like this is why he's losing. Because the people that would vote for him, if he didn't say stuff like this, aren't going to vote for him. And the people that he's trying to get to vote for him we're never going to vote for him. So it's like Trump. And I don't like to keep bringing Trump, but I mean, it was just recently an election down there, so it's good to draw some comparisons. Trump never tried to get. There were people who were never going to vote for Trump. So he wasn't going to try and get their votes. Like, it's just not going to happen. And for some odd reason, they want to get the votes of people that are never going to vote for you. Instead of concentrating on the people that are passionate and want to vote for you and will get others to vote for you. If you're saying, something that they believe, like, relating to what they believe should be done. So, that's that kind of enthusiasm grows, as you've seen with the Trump re-election campaign. He never tried to get like the View girls, the women on the View, to like him. He knew that was never going to happen. So Pierre's doing a lot of weird little things. It's like he's trying to throw the match here. So anyway, he keeps saying this: anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. Which, it's bizarre. It's like a globalist talking point. It's like something you would hear in Davos. So, it's bizarre. And, these rallies he's trying to disavow Trump, but he's still doing rallies to emulate Trump. Okay? So, either, like, look, the way he has them set up, they're not quite as big as Trump's, but it's the same idea. And I'm not saying he shouldn't do it, but he's actively trying to disavow any whatever. We're gonna get into this anyway, but I'm not a fan of this slogan. Anyone, anywhere can achieve anything. He keeps saying it though. And here's Doug Ford's campaign manager accusing Poilievre, the Poilievre campaign of campaign malpractice. He didn't hold back. Corey Tanecki. Wonder if we'll have video here. Campaign malpractice, like that's coming from a conservative or guy who worked for the conservative premier, and he worked for Harper. All right, let's read it. Corey Tanecki's accusing conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and his team of squandering a big lead. I know it's uncomfortable for people to hear that said out loud, but it's in every poll aggregator, the numbers are the numbers, and saying that you don't believe in polls, if you're managing a campaign, it's delusional. Tanecki told CTV Power Play. So at a rally on Wednesday, some conservative supporters were spotted wearing shirts and waving signs, "Do you believe in polls?" The Conservative campaign says the signs and shirts are not party or campaign products. Tanecki, meanwhile, appeared on the Curse of Politics podcast Thursday morning, made waves among political watchers when he said blowing a 25-point lead and being like 10 points down is campaign malpractice at the highest level. Yes, it is. All right. When I talk about campaign malpractice, blowing a lead that big, and your response being, I don't believe in the polls, I don't know. I think it's kind of weak sauce. I've been saying that too. It is weak. According to Tanecki, a back and forth between Poilievre and Globe and Mail reporter Laura Stone this week also isn't helping. On Tuesday, Stone asked Poilievre whether he feels he should broaden his message beyond certain talking points to increase support among Liberals and undecided voters. Yeah. Okay. At a time when Conservatives are already losing points with women, Tanecki said having the party leader seen attacking a female reporter in a gross way is turning even more voters off. Tanecki has also been critical of Poilievre for failing to pivot his campaign to focus on Trump, saying it's clear way back in December the U.S. president was becoming a primary concern for Canadians while leaning into a tone that itself reminiscent of Trump. So he doesn't want him to act like Trump. He's looking and sounding a lot like Trump. Arguing with a reporter about the size of a crowd at a rally, a campaign slogan that's Canada First. Pressed on why he would call out his party in the middle of a campaign, Tanecki said, while he's a conservative and will be voting for the party, his job is to give commentary and analysis on the election campaign. Exactly. That's what I was doing. And I got attacked for it. He's saying he wants him to win, but he's got to give his criticism too. Okay. Let's see what he says here. Now that the video's.
And, you've got to wonder what the Conservatives are thinking, having their leader, attacking a female reporter in a way that I described as being gross. I think it was like really unhelpful to them. That It's gone viral. It's making its way around the internet, and I think it's turning women off even more from this campaign. So, when I talk about campaign malpractice,
Something else making waves on the campaign trail tonight, a leading conservative strategist taking aim at his own party. Corey tonight was Stephen Harper's campaign spokesperson in the 2015 election campaign and just ran Doug Ford's successful provincial campaign. He's also a regular commentator for us here at CTV News. Here's what he said today on the Curse of Politics podcast. Take a listen.
We talk sometimes about campaign malpractice. Blowing a 25-point lead and being like 10 points down is campaign malpractice at the highest level. It's going to be about how we talk to Laura Stone. Like, how many questions did he get on Laura Stone? Like, and look, gross. Like, it was gross. And he is losing women and losing women massively.
All right, Corey is with me live in studio. A few less F-bombs in this conversation. Thanks for making the time. I appreciate it as always.
Well, it is the curse of politics.
Yes, exactly. This was just plain old power play.
Right,
no F-bombs necessary.
We'll keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. So the headline out of this, and it certainly generated a ton of reaction throughout the day. I can't tell you how many people sent me some of what you said. Certainly, the idea that you say this is campaign malpractice at the highest level. Why are you saying that?
Because we blew a 25-point lead. That's why. I know it's uncomfortable for people to hear that said out loud, but like it's in every poll aggregator, the numbers are the numbers. And saying that you don't believe in polls, and if you're managing a campaign, it's delusional. And I don't believe that the Conservatives don't believe in polls. Like I just don't believe that that's true. I think that the polls are the polls. There's a consensus in what those show right now, and you got to take a look at that information as a campaign manager and try to figure out a path to get people who were supporting you a few short months ago back, voting for you when Election Day comes a couple short weeks from now. And if you look at who the Conservatives have lost, there are a couple of core constituencies there that typically vote Conservative. The biggest one demographically would be 55-plus voters. So it's a very important cohort. They tend to come out at a higher rate than younger voters. And the Conservatives, when they win elections, they tend to do extremely well with those voters. But they're losing not only 55-plus women, which is a little harder to get, they're massively losing them. They're massively losing them, and largely around the issue of Donald Trump. And they're also losing 55-plus men. Like, this is, very problematic for them. The gender gap is huge right now in this election campaign. And, you've got to wonder what the Conservatives are thinking, having their leader attacking a female reporter in a way that I described as being gross. I think it was like really unhelpful to them. That clip has gone viral. It's making its way around the internet, and I think it's turning women off even more from this campaign. So, when I talk about campaign malpractice, blowing a lead that big, and your response being, I don't believe in the polls, I don't know. I think it's kind of weak sauce.
There are some people inside that campaign who would, to play devil's advocate, say, look, like this was out of our hands. Like Trump coming in, the degree to which that combined with Justin Trudeau resulted in this complete realignment in public opinion polling, like that's stuff that was out of our control. Is that true at all in your view, or what could they have done to stop the bleeding, if anything?
It was clear in public opinion polling that Trump was becoming the biggest issue in the land in December, way back in December. And if you look at, what we did with the Ford campaign, for instance, that's when we pivoted our campaign. We were running a campaign on affordability and carbon taxes, and a lot of the same things that Poilievre was in 2024. But when you see the public opinion shift that radically on an issue, you have to respond to that. You have to respond. They've reluctantly partially pivoted the campaign, after the first week, I think in response to criticism from myself and other people. But, it's been a very incomplete pivot. And I think it's missing one of the key elements. For a lot of the voters that have moved, they've mostly moved on the Trump issue. And one of the things that is clearly holding them back with Poilievre is all the Trumpy stuff. He's looking and sounding a lot like Trump. So, arguing with a reporter about the size of the crowd at a rally. A campaign slogan that I can't.
Anyway, we already pretty interesting comments from Corey Tanecki. So I don't know. He wants they focus on Trump. I guess that's the Corey Tanecki follows the polls. That's how he wins. And to hell with your beliefs. But he's calling them out. He can afford it. Good for him. I saw this today. Tim Pool's getting a lot of heat for saying this. The guy who killed the black guy who killed the white guy in the football tent was acting in self-defense.
Draw your weapon and you use it.
Let's see what he says.
For one where he says, what is it? Nothing matters but this. He was at a school event at the wrong team's tent with a knife. He clearly chose murder than to walk away, cut and dry here. Nope, wrong. Imagine you are invited to a party at someone else's house and you are legally carrying a firearm. And then a fight breaks out and or like an altercation breaks out between you and some guy and, there's drinking involved or whatever. I'm not trying to make a one-for-one scenario. I'm trying to create a potential scenario separate from this one with similarities. You go to a party. Let's say you go to a party.
Oh, my God.
And some guy starts saying stuff like, yo, man, get out of here. And you're like, I can do what I want. I was invited to the party. Verbal altercation escalates.
I can't listen to this guy. This guy gets he's got millions of followers, and I don't know how he gets so boosted, but he's a retard, okay? I'd rather have no followers than be a retard like this guy. All right. Back to Poilievre here. So this is little things that he's doing. He's alienating his base, trying to get the liberals to vote for him. And they don't want to vote for him. So he's going to alienate this guy and all this guy's friends. Okay. So to get into the rally, this is at a conservative rally. To get into the rally, you need to go through security. And if they don't like what you're wearing, they make you take it off. This guy had a Make Canada Great hat on. And they told him he had to take it off to get in. So, these stories, there's this thing called the internet. So back in the day, you could tell them not to wear the hat and nobody would know about it. But now everybody knows about it, like literally the whole world. And this is like the third incident of hat taking off demands by the Conservative Party. And it may not seem like a big deal, but it's when a campaign's already going rough. This is like an unnecessary. What's the word? Unforced error. Yeah, it's an unforced error. Just let the dude wear his stupid hat. If they say anything, if the Toronto Star says anything, it's like, what do you want me to do? Tell him not to wear the hat? Like, who gives a shit? Look at the guy's face. You think he's going to vote for Pierre now? Look at him. I don't know who he is. You just lost a voter, Pierre. I can't believe he wasn't allowed to wear this hat. He probably bought that hat. He's like, I'm going to wear it. I can't wait to wear it to a Poilievre rally. And then they told him, that's the look in your face when they tell you, you can't come into our rally. Well, you're not good enough. You dirty Trumper. Poor guy. This is not the first victim of hat racism. There's more. This is the curse of politics where Corey Tanecki was talking all the F-bombs about Pierre Poilievre. Kind of hard to win a campaign when the head of Ontario's campaign strategy is slagging you publicly nonstop. It's crazy. And Ontario's the prize here, guys. 140 seats. If they don't win Ontario, it's over for him. And he's not looking good in Ontario. Not when Corey Tanecki's saying stuff like this. That's why Mark Carney's at 80% on the polling market. Oh, there's another victim of hat racism. Okay, let's read it. Jose Goulart, a retiree from Preston, Ontario, was denied entry. Look at this guy. This is horrible. This is almost like, this reminds me of what happened to Don Cherry on a very minor, like a smaller scale, of course. Jose Goulart, a retired, and he's wearing the poppy, dude. Poor guy, man. Jose Goulart, a retiree from Preston, Ontario, was denied entry to the Pierre Poilievre rally at the airport near Kitchener-Waterloo tonight because of his Make Canada Great Again hat he wore. He refused to take it off. He refused to take it off to gain entry. He says he sees nothing wrong with the message. Another victim here. Look at this guy. Pierre, you lost another vote. You need every vote you can get. And you said some dummy in the Toronto Star is worth more than this guy's vote. That's what you're saying to people. Look at this guy's eyes. He's like, I'm not voting for Pierre. I thought I was going to vote. I was going to wear this hat. Look, he's got his poppy. He's a veteran, isn't he? Yes. Retiree. No, retiree. I thought it said retired veteran. But still. He's got Pierre on the side. Oh. What happened to all these Make Canada Great hat-agains that they were pushing on people? Are those illegal now? Hat racism. I should be able to wear whatever hat I want. So apparently you can't wear that hat at the Blue Jays game, or can you? Do you say Canada's not for sale? I don't know. Ridiculous. Wear the hat. All right. Next post. That's another Dave Smith and the Douglas Murray. I'm going to watch it. That should be a good Joe Rogan to watch. There's Doug Ford's campaign manager again, accuses Poilievre camp of campaign malpractice. I don't see him winning 2 weeks from now when the head of Ontario's campaign, who just delivered another majority for that campaign, provincial campaign, also conservative. I just don't see the Conservative Party pulling it off with 2 weeks to go when this guy's totally slagging the campaign. He's not being nice. He's not being charitable. He's not holding back. So they got 2 weeks to turn it around, and this guy sounds like it needs a total rebuild. He can't do that in the middle of a campaign. All right. I like this tweet from Soldier Mama, and it made a lot of sense when I read it, so I'm going to read it. It is my view and mine only that putting my vote towards CPC would be tantamount to forgiving them for the COVID years. Many, like, if not all the CPC members sat on their hands and let Aaron O'Toole go COVID commie on everybody. As Pierre as well. And they could have said, it was crazy time. And they could have apologized, but they haven't apologized. So she continues here. For me, it's like saying I forgive you and hoping it won't happen again. Anyone who's been in an abusive relationship knows this is a cycle and I'm breaking it. So basically she's saying she's breaking it by voting for PPC, I believe. Well, she didn't say who she's voting for, but yeah, like, they didn't even apologize for the COVID. And they actually kicked people out of the party for actually caring about people's rights. So kind of hard to forget that. I haven't forgotten. Now he's disavowing anything to do with the convoy. Like he's a coward. All right. Next post. Here's an article. Carney surge in Quebec could wipe the Sovereigntist Party off the map. Yeah, for some reason, Liberals are polling really well in Quebec. And at the expense of the Bloc Québécois. The Conservatives aren't polling good at all. A lot of seats in Quebec. And for some reason, the Quebec really likes ultra-globalist Mark Carney. I don't know why. I don't live in Quebec. They just seem to... He seems to be their kind of guy, you know. Even if his French ain't that great. Very strange, very strange. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Ontario is like the prize for federal elections. It may not be fair to people outside of Ontario, but that's the way it is. And that's what's going to be in play. That's going to decide the battleground for this election, I believe. And it doesn't look good because Ford ain't doing much. Doug Ford ain't doing much. If anything, he's doing stuff against Pierre to win Ontario. And Ontario, whatever, without Ontario, it doesn't matter. All right. But Quebec looks like it's going liberal. I don't know why. Who knows what he promised them. And this is another thing is, while Pierre is being, and I had to say the word inauthentic, because when you're wishy-washy and you change your position and you don't stand for anything, you're inauthentic. And these days, with AI and all this deep fake stuff, people crave authenticity, and they're getting very good at smelling authenticity. And something I'm not smelling a lot of authenticity. But unfortunately, Carney is looking comfortable in his skin, and people can sense that. I don't believe in any of his policies, but he's pulling off that authenticity, and people are voting for that option, you know, because they would rather have someone who's authentic, I guess. I don't know. I'm not voting for either one of these guys. We got a lot to talk about after the election. I'm just curious who's going to win the election, but I'm not. You know, I think we're on the same. Regardless of who wins, it was the same party, but it's still interesting to see who's going to win. Where we go from there. But Greg Wycliffe made an interesting point about Carney being authentic in his own skin and not worrying what. I mean, he's got his base secure, so he's not worrying about anything, about offending anybody, or he's just being himself, his old globalist self. So he directly attacks the credibility of Globe and Mail, dog whistles to Woodstock white Canadians via Mr. Dress-Up references. Says Canada is very European. Like, that's crazy stuff to be saying, which is, it's a good thing he's saying. His dad was casually racist in the 60s on CBC. What's not to like about Carney? And I said, oh, he also pissed off Netanyahu, too. So it's like he's doing everything that Pierre should be doing. You can't make this up. It's funny. All right. And next, I noticed Pierre, and I'm not slagging the wife, but, you know, when the wife is front and center of the campaign, a la Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama, they're public figures and they're up for criticism. And my criticism is I don't trust her, and I don't like husband and wives working together is just asking for trouble. And from what it looks like, she's taken a very active part in this campaign. And I don't know if some of the staffers there might be getting along too well with that idea. So I think a lot of friction coming from that too. Like and I guess what she say, and this woman who said during COVID, stay the fuck home or some bullshit, COVID commie shit on her blog or something. So I don't know. She's a woman. She smiles in public, but who knows what she's like in private. Let's see what she says here. She's been at a lot of his events. She's been at a lot of his spots.
What we need is a government.
So it's what's going on here. Like, are they partners now? Like, it's weird. And nobody's really mentioned it. Because, they don't want to be, like, attacking the wife. But you're not attacking the wife. Because the wife would be the wife. Like, she just shows up and sits there. It looks like she's half cocaine, running the campaign half the time. Let's see what she says.
And a leader for the people and by the people.
Oh, God.
But he has been doing this way more than 3 years. Pierre has been here in public service, fighting for our youth, our immigrants, our families, our seniors, and that is something honorable. So
the immigrant thing, I don't know where that came from. The crowd wasn't too cheering.
You know what you should do? You should
sanction. Hilarious. A little awkward pause there. So I don't think it's my opinion as a observer of couples, I don't think it's a good sign that she's up and center with this campaign. That's just, if I were a betting man, I would say it's probably not a good thing that she's starting to look like she's running things, because it means someone else in the campaign's not running things, and they're going to be grumbling. So maybe we'll hear some more of that. I don't know. Wife and husband working together, especially on something like this. Asking for trouble. All right. Next post. This is Brian Everard, PPC, Sarnia Lambton. That's our candidate here for Sarnia Lambton. He's a good guy. I'll vote for him. I'd rather have him. Okay. Here's Mark Kearney. Comments following meeting. His cabinet meeting today.
Financial conditions, a slowing.
1 minute, we can listen.
Had a good, long discussion on several aspects. The first is the general situation. In the last week, there have been a lot of developments in terms of U.S. tariff policy, reactions from others, including China. A really marked tightening in financial conditions, a slowing. The initial signs of slowing in the global economy, impacts that we're starting to see unfortunately in the Canadian economy, particularly in the Canadian labor market. We reviewed our response to those tariffs, our core strategy of to fight, to protect, and to build. We left instructions for officials to ensure that the next government, whichever government, Canadians choose, will be in the best possible position for negotiations with the United States, which, as the President and I have agreed, will begin from the start of May.
So that's Mark Kearney today, taking our little break from the campaign. I don't like Kearney's policies at all, but he's running a tight campaign. Okay, you can be not a Kearney supporter and say he's running a tight campaign, because if the best they can get is a Brookfield tax haven, like, you'd have to convict all the Canadian elites then if that's all you got on them. Like, you need to get him with the Epstein guy or something like that, like, or whatever. Anyway, brah. So much to do, so much to say. And this will finish it off for tonight. But this is what we're talking about. 81 seats in Ontario are the Golden Horseshoe, Kingston and Ottawa area. So Toronto, Kingston, and Ottawa. 48 seats in Quebec are mostly Montreal. All on the NDP seats in BC going to Libs, and it's over. CPC will lose a 4th straight. So yeah, the electoral map in Canada is looking a little more grim for the Conservative Party. We'll look at it quick and then call it a night. We're here for the next 2 nights. But if you look at Ontario there, Ontario is 81, almost, yeah, over 140 seats. No, 120 seats. Is it 120 seats? 120 seats. But still, it's a lot of seats. So, the battle's Ontario. Because you see out west, and even BC there, where the most seats are, they got a healthy lead. So, yeah, it's not looking good for the Conservative Party. And like, this is going to be the make or break, I think. But from this weekend on through the debates, if they don't turn around by that time, we'll see what happens. But that was the day that was. So we'll talk to you tomorrow and see where this campaign goes and see where this country goes. But it just seems like everything's in suspended animation until this damn election's over. So keep checking it out until it is. All right. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a nice night.